Hi, Stacy Cunningham here with another lesson from The Ultimate Art of War by Anthony Cummins. This time I want to talk about lesson 138, which is the 5 types of bad leader. This comes out of chapter 8 in The Art of War, and I'm going to go right into this one, so let's do it. So, according to Giles, Sun Tzu says, there are 5 dangerous faults which may affect a general. 1. Recklessness, which leads to destruction. 2. Cowardice, which leads to capture. 3. A hasty temper, which can be provoked by insults. 4. A delicacy of honor, which is sensitive to shame. 5. Over-solicitude for his men, which exposes him to worry and trouble. These are the 5 besetting sins of a general, ruinous to the conduct of war. When an army is overthrown and its leader slain, the cause will surely be found among these 5 dangerous faults. Let them be a subject of meditation. Now, Anthony has listed these 5 faults as reckless, overcautious, hot-headed, vain, and too compassionate. This is what you get as the lesson's visual as opposed to a more picture image, so you get this nice little list. Now, in reading the text and looking at these words, you might see something they all have in common. These are all extreme traits or extreme ways to react. In fact, reckless and overcautious are opposite ends of the same spectrum. They're basically too much courage and too little courage. In being reckless, a general acts without thinking and may even just jump at every opportunity to fight. In being overcautious, a general prefers to avoid battles and retreats far too easily. A good general, on the other hand, knows that there's a time to fight and a time to avoid it, so they sit somewhere in the middle. And thinking about it, it sounds a bit like Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, you know. This chair is too hard, this chair is too soft, but this one is just right. Like Goldilocks, you want to sit somewhere in between the 2 extremes. That's the sweet spot. Now, for the whole 5, we don't have this nice little spectrum thing going for all of them, but I think we can try to split them into groups for the most part. Well, see what I mean. Let's call one side too offensive, which has reckless and hot-headed, and I'll call the other side too defensive or too protective, which has overcautious and too compassionate. Now, a general on the too offensive side is going to be pretty easy to make advance and attack, whether they're trying to prove just how brave and tough they are or they're easy to make rage over an insult. These generals are easy to bait and lure into a trap. A general on the too defensive side is going to be very prone to protecting themselves and their soldiers, which may include retreating and even surrendering. Because these generals are prone to protecting themselves and avoiding what seems too difficult, you may even be able to push them where you want to go, almost like dogs herding sheep. You can move them out of your way or corner them into a trap. In the case of a too compassionate general in particular, they will go too easy on their soldiers and will be overly concerned about not losing any lives, which is, as you know, a bit extreme. If an opponent realizes the general they're up against is too compassionate, they may see taking hostages and even attacking civilians as good ways to take advantage of the general's heart. Whatever the case, all these generals are predictable because they clearly favor certain decisions, and because of this, and the reasoning behind it, they can be manipulated. Then what you have left is vain. I didn't forget it, it just doesn't quite fit into my little groups. And by vain, we're talking about someone who fears criticism. They are so concerned about how others see them that they will be prone to making bad decisions in an attempt to keep a good public image. Maybe some days that's attacking, and other days that's defending. Whatever other people think, right? Now, besides relying on public opinion instead of facts being a bad thing, this means they're weak to things like character assassination and blackmail, leaving them open to easy manipulation by an enemy. So, to sum it all up, you don't want to have a general or be a general that has a characteristic that is so strong or so extreme that it leads to poor decision making. You want to make sure you use offensive and defensive maneuvers for the right reasons and at the right times. Really, though, you can't base any decisions and tactics in war on just your own personal feelings or desires. Well, not if you want them to be good ones anyway. Stick to facts and calculations. An army will likely fail if its general can be predicted and exploited and even manipulated. So, to be a good general, you don't want to be your army's weakness. And Sun Tzu says to watch out for these 5 traits in particular, as he believes any bad leader falls into at least one of them. And that's the lesson. I hope you liked this video, and maybe you liked my groupings, or maybe you have another idea in mind that you think fits better. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them, and I'll see you next time.